allowed to speak with other inmates. I'm in a cell with a solid door similar to this one, only there's no opening whatsoever. It's about a 6 by 4.5 cell, and they're day in and day out, 24 hours. So the treatment has been very abusive, and as far as the attitude of the police, there's a hostile attitude. And just recently I was put on punishment for 15 days where I wasn't fed at all, only half a cup of a green substance that I couldn't eat. And this has been the treatment.
Why do you think it's happening?
The first place, that the police here are merely an arm of the establishment. Their purpose is to protect the establishment and punish those who disagree with the goals and the activities of the establishment. And so there's a necessary contradiction between what I stand for and what the establishment and their protectors stand for.
Huey, what's your impression of the demonstrators outside, who've been outside the courthouse every day since this trial began?
The people, the community that's given support to me have helped me to keep a high spirit. They are my inspiration. And without them, it would be impossible for me to keep the strength to go through this great ordeal.
Do you have anything that you want to say that hasn't been asked, Huey?
Only that I'm sure that we will be victorious. I have a very fine counsel, Mr. Gary, and the rest of the staff, and that I'm convinced and very secure in a victory.
Huey, have you been able to see just about anybody that you want to out of your family or your fiance? Have you been able to see them?
I'm allowed visiting 3 times a week, but even this is carried on as far as the police with a hostile attitude. They say abusive things to my visitors. They don't give the time that other prisoners get, and it's strictly sort of a arbitrary kind of treatment, not only to me but to the other Panthers who are here in jail.
At this stage of the trial, how confident do you feel that you're going to get justice?
With the present system of the court structure, it will be impossible for me to get justice, but I'm confident that we will revolutionize this institution before this trial is over. If it's not revolutionized, if there aren't very great changes, then of course I won't get justice. But I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to make some changes in this institution.
Mr. Cleaver said yesterday, Huey, that the evidence, when it is shown, will be so overwhelming in your favor that any jury picked from these 47 would be embarrassed not to let you go. Do you feel this is right?
Yes, that I feel that America is embarrassed, period, not only with individual institutions, but the whole country because of the activities and oppressions of other people of color, such as the Vietnamese people and the Latin American people. So America has been able to bear her embarrassment up until this point, but because of world opinion, perhaps she will withdraw from the field.
Well, a lot of people out there don't know where it's at. They think it's the black people doing it, you dig? That all those riots are causing my life to be miserable in all areas, you know. And they really haven't focused in on the fact that it's the pigs and their mentors, the people who control the pigs, the power structure, those bald-headed businessmen at the Chamber of Commerce, you see? They're not turned on to that power structure. We just know that life is becoming increasingly miserable for everybody. See? But when they find out who it is that's causing the trouble, and who it is that's making life miserable, and who it is that's responsible for all their sons being murdered in Vietnam, when they get tuned into that, see, then they're all going to be just like the Panthers, you see, because this is what we're tuned into. We see what's going on, and it's just a terrible and foul situation. More and more people are turning onto that, you see. So I think that they're going to do the dog right here in Babylon.
When we first started, we had a police alert patrol, and we would patrol the community. If we saw the police brutalize anyone, we would put an end to this. Usually the police wouldn't brutalize anyone if we were on hand because we were armed, and if the police arrested the individual, we would follow him to the jail and bail the individual out, whether he was a Panther or not. And we would gain many recruits like this. So therefore the community started to say that, well, these people are really concerned about our welfare.
I think the basic reaction to a cat that experiences the Panther, I don't mean who sees a guy go by in a black jacket or a beret. I mean a guy who sees the Panthers in action with their lives on the line. When he sees that, that's the end of it, you know, he's either scared to death where he's going to never commit no more crimes, do nothing wrong, you know, he's going to jaywalk, or else he comes around and says that he can dig it, you see. You don't find a guy, black cat, just remaining the same after really seeing the Panthers. The guys on the block out there, man, they never have been too impressed by America, you know, by what's been happening to them. They're not impressed by that. They don't stand in fear of the cops. And this is one of the reasons why the Panther Party focused on the cops. Because the cops are out there and they're visible, you see. And this is the direct contact of the black people with the power structure. You know, it's the man, it's the pig who's going to come and bother them, you see. But the only thing that has been lacking was a method by which to really move against it effectively. And those other organizations with those programs and those nonviolent tactics and those appeals to God and Allah and whoever, the brothers didn't want to hear that. And so here all of a sudden, here come two niggas with some guns, stand up in front of the cop and talk to the cop just like the cop's talking to them, you know. They check that out. They really want to know what that's about, you see. If they don't decide that their life is too precious, you know, that they must live forever. If they don't decide that, then they come a little closer to the party.
We're not a self-defense group in the limited fashion that you usually think of self-defense groups. I would like to use an example when Fidel Castro started the revolution along with Che Guevara, with 12 of them all together. They realized that they wouldn't be able to topple the oppressive regime in Cuba. What they were essentially was an educational body. They engaged with the army, they fought with the army, and they showed the people that the army was not bulletproof, that the police were not bulletproof, and that Batista's regime was not a regime that was impossible to topple. So the people started to feel their strength. The Black Panther Party feels very much the same way. We think that this educational process is necessary, and it's the people that will cause a revolution, and it's the people that will cause a change in the country. The Black Panther Party is simply the vanguard of the revolution, and we plan to teach the people the strategy and the necessary tools to liberate themselves.
No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. The pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. Pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. Pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. Pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. The pigs are gonna catch Off the pig! Pigs are gonna catch hell! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs in our community! Off the pig! No more pigs.
The focus of all of our activities is Huey P. Newton and the need and the demand that he be set free. Because we feel that the only way that Huey can really be taken out of the hands of those who are relentlessly trying to kill him, you see, is for the people to become aware of what this is all about. This is why I like this idea about film, because people can get to know more about that. They can see things, you know. But the people have to stand up and demand. They have to understand that they have a right. They have a right to demand that these judicial procedures be carried out in the right manner.
The revolution has come. Off the pig! Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig! The revolution has come. Off the pig! Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig! The revolution has come. Off the pig! Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig! The revolution has come. Off the pig! Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig! The revolution has come. Off the pig! Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig!
The Black Panther Party made a coalition with the Peace and Freedom Party, which is primarily a white group. We see it necessary to fight on two fronts. We must liberate the colony as well as stimulate revolution in the mother country. Because I think that the revolutionary students play a great part in saving America. If it were not for the white students, the Black Panther Party would react to the racism in the country and therefore respond with racism. White students have been very interested in the past of the foreign policy of the United States. They're demanding that the United States withdraw from Vietnam, stop brutalizing the Vietnamese people, and we feel that the white students should relate and pay more attention to the colonized situation here of the blacks first, because after all, this is home. And they should, this is not to say that they shouldn't denounce America's treacherous actions abroad. I think they can be done at the same time. That it's just a matter of placing emphasis upon the criminal activities of America here in the homeland.
Let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of this. Let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of a black revolution and why black people have a right to take what's theirs. You can read the platform in the program, and it's a basic program, and it simply says exactly what black people have been crying for 400 years. One, we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our own black communities. Two, we want full employment for our people. Three, we want decent housing fit for shelter of human beings. Four, we want an end to the robbery of the black community by the white racist businessman. Five, we want decent education that teaches us about the true nature of this racist, decadent system, and education that teaches us about our true history and our role in the society and the world today. Six, we want all black brothers to be exempt from military service. Seven, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. 8, we want all black brothers and sisters held in federal, county, state, city, jails, and prisons to be released because they have not had a fair trial. They've been tried. They've been tried by all white juries who have no understanding of the average reasoning man in the black community. Number 9, and this is where Brother Huey is being caught. We just want the courts to make sure we have peers on the jury or people from the black community as defined by the jive Constitution of the so-called United States. Number 10 is a summary with a major political objective. And that is, we want land, we want bread, we want housing, we want clothing, we want education, we want justice, and we want peace. And the major political objectives, we want a black plebiscite, and the UN, where the black colonial subjects will participate in dealing with and analyzing, projecting politically upon the racist atrocities that have been committed against black people in this nation. So the concept is this, basically. The whole black nation has to be put together as a black army. And we're going to walk on this nation, we're going to walk on this racist power structure, and we're going to say to the whole damn government, stick 'em up, motherfucker. This is a hold up. We come for what's ours.
Nor are we talking about abstract notions of separation. You see what I mean? I think that people are going to have to learn how to live together on the face of this earth. And the only way they're going to do it is to establish humane revolutionary systems that make some sense, you see? So when we start talking about a new system, we have to talk about a new system based on, from each and every person, according to their ability, both male and female, to each and every person according to their needs, both male and female. We even denounce male chauvinism. It's a part of oppression. We believe in equality of male and female, you see. The old chauvinistic attitudes that come about even amongst cultural nationalist group, the woman's place is here and all this kind of stuff, is directly related to the oppressive system of America itself, you see.
I was at the conference.
Okay, well, it's directly related to the male can do this and do that better than the female, and what happens is you get the male oppressing the female. Well, overall in society, if you read Soul on Ice at all, you'll find that the most oppressed in society is the black female. She's even more oppressed than even the black male, although there is a group of black people who are both oppressed. You see what I mean? And this is very important in understanding what class society is as it's related to chauvinism and racialism. You see what I mean? That's why we oppose it. Huey started out very correct when he cited and stated that every human being on the face of this earth has a right to live. Therefore, every human being on the face of this earth has a right to work, because he must be able to work to live. This is the crux of the problem. In this country, we have numerous idealistic dreams, but I think many of them have to be made a reality. We understand that some of the middle-class workers have some degree of land, bread, housing, education, clothing, and I'm not going to say too much about peace, but workers who are attacked by cops, I think the workers have to also see themselves as part of the community. Workers who have numerously supported with gross amounts of taxes to wage war against peoples of color around the world who want to control their own destiny. This is completely out of proportion in terms of what a government should do when serving the people. And when we look around and see in America that in every major metropolis where black or Mexican-American people and protesting people live and reside, the police forces have been doubled, tripled, and quadrupled in the last 4 or 5 years. And we start tallying up the amount of money that's used for the new technical equipment and tanks and things like this to be used against the people. When we see increases of National Guardsmen not used for against some attacking enemy that the U.S. government always alludes to, but used against the people of America. The workers of America have to understand that it's the fascist ruling class that are infested in the government that is destroying America, that's creating the fascist police state that has to be stopped by the masses of the people in America. And the Black Panther Party understands this, and we always have understood it. It's the right to equality, the right to human existence, the right to land, water, and air is the basic thing that no one gives anyone. It's here for mankind on the face of this earth. But when private property and ownership of land gets to an extent that it's a grossly national and international exploiting operation and a tantamount of bombs and oppression and killing and murdering people is the means by which the low-life, scurvy ruling class circles try to maintain what they've taken and robbed from the people's labor, well, then it's time that the people see the necessity of moving against that power structure, moving against the ruling class circles, the avaricious businessmen, the demagogic politicians, with all their running dogs. It's time that people see that they're less than 10 million in this country. With all their Navy and Marines and police forces, there's only 1 million or so policemen in the country now. There was one time only 340,000 5 or 6 years ago, but there's nearly 1 million now. And people have to see that they outnumber them, and we have to move against them. The Black Panther Party tries to exemplify for the black community controlling and having institutions and controlling institutions and making more institutions that serve the people in the black community.
You worry about liberty because you've been denied. Well, I think that you're mistaken, or then you must have lied. 'Cause you do not act like those who care. You've never even fought for the liberty that you claim to lack. Or have you never fought to seize the time? The time is now. Oh, seize the time, and you know how.
The genocidal, murderous tactics that the Black Panther Party are subjected to by the fascist ruling class circles who are infested in the United States government and local governments, by the running dogs and their pigs, jailings of political prisoners, what have you, cannot be justified, just as the atrocities that have been committed against black people over the years of lynchings, murders, and the oppression, the economic, political, and social oppression that black people have been subjected to cannot be justified at all. So we're going to go to the United Nations along with other organization groups and peoples to ask the United Nations to recognize black people as first-class citizens by recognizing black people as a nation of Afro-Americans, a nation within a nation, working and cooperating for the progress of humanity here in America, to end the fascist oppression that the United States government is using not only against the Black Panther Party, but against black people and other poor, oppressed, and colored peoples in general. So, all in all, we're going to ask also the United Nations to recognize the proposal of the Vietnamese that political prisoners be turned loose, started with Huey and myself, and the Vietnamese say they will send the pilots home, the prisoners of war there. So we say power to the people, and we hope the people move to end the oppression and stop the war against poor, oppressed, colored people in general and black people in particular.
Let me ask you a question in light of that thing that was in the paper this morning. You had set out instructions to keep Oakland cool as such because the police were ready and prepared for the Panthers.
To use restraint and we're asking the black community in general not to respond to the vicious attacks that the police are making upon our people. We feel that Chief Gaines and Mayor Redding would like to provoke the community in responding violently so that they will have an excuse to come into our community and brutalize and murder our people.
Do you think the action this morning at Panther headquarters is representative of the general feeling within the department, or just the acts of several men?
I think what happened this morning is the modus operandi of the police. I say this based upon the fact that the police are not responding emotionally or on the spur of the moment. 10 months ago, or 12 months ago now, the police shot up our office on 58th and Grove Street. I had witnesses to this, but it's difficult to report one criminal to another criminal. It was not reported to the police department, so it's nothing new for the police to provoke black people in our community. They do it every day, and this is why that the solution that the Black Panthers offer to the people, the citizens in general, is to stop this kind of action, is to for the police to withdraw from the community. If the police were to withdraw from the community and the black community control its own police institution as well as all the other institutions within our community, we feel that the law and order would exist and peace.
Do you feel confident you'll be released on bail?
What was presented in the trial by either side?
No, that's why I'm sure that it was a I respect, Mr. Greer. Mr. Greer was a paid man, I believe, by the DA's department. He was held in protected custody at Lake Merritt Hotel, and he stated that he had, well, there's information that he had quit his job or he hadn't worked for some time, and that I think that the DA's department was paying his way. I think that it was strictly a Judas-type sellout.
In terms of the verdict again.
Well, it will only affect it in this respect that we've constantly maintained that this is the conduct and the attitude of the certain members of the police department, and that they're running roughshod over the rights of the black community. We have filed a suit in the federal court under the Civil Rights Act, and we intend to continue and prosecute that case.
I understand that the police about the community, both black and white community. We've been dedicated to law and order ever since the origin of the party, and that it hasn't stopped now. We're asking, we've asked in the past, and the opportunity is still open to Chief Gaines and the mayor to negotiate with the Black Panther Party, and we're willing to talk, and as always, that our communication lines are open, and that we would like to have some peaceful solution to the crucial problem throughout the black community. Today, or when they fired into our office, it's hard to say. That it's difficult to deal with rebel rousers. First, you have to civilize and tame them, or socialize them. It seems that they have no respect for law and order. They have no respect for the values of man, and they seem to be very unsocialized, and they need first to be taught the basic values of humanity. Now, as far as the Black Panther Party is concerned, we're willing to open up schools throughout the community and teach the police the law, and also the other government officials. We can teach them the nature of the needs of our community, and we would like to see a peaceful solution, because we don't want to see anyone killed or hurt. This is on either side. I think it's unfortunate when people are, when men...
Thank brothers, you don't have to keep quiet. We have been trying to keep out of the press, but what's happening is that the police forces of the state, of the country, are moving down.
Before I was arrested was all dedicated to seeing to it that Huey P. Newton is set free. And I plan to go back to that with a little bit of rededication to it. Come here, Jerry. My part was in ducking bullets and to see to it that the public becomes aware of what's being done to this man. We haven't changed in that regard. We intend to rededicate ourselves to that effort and to work hard on it and to see to it that Huey P. Newton is set free.
Or associates, which is showing them a bit more respect than they have shown for him.
Tell you what I hope happens to it.
Were you well treated, Elder?
They did. Yes.
Showing the party to the public before he criticizes the
problems during your
just a notice, just
a
notice.
The only problems are
believe in law and order. We believe not in law and order in terms of fascism and justice, and we believe this is what we want. But we're saying that, well, like the party with the community control of police petition. Now, this is very legal to get registered voters to sign the petition to vote in a new community control of police, decentralized police department, you know, where the people actually control, place a proposition on the ballot. Now, say the majority of the people vote in. You see, now that's what we're getting. We're getting the majority of the signatures even on the petitions, even before we go to the ballot. Then the majority of the people can actually, in fact, vote. After they voted in, say the police department said, well, we're not removing ourselves. Then that police department will be officiating itself as fascist. They presently have fascist tactics now, of course. But then at the point where it officiates itself as fascist, in this manner where it denies the people's right to vote and vote out and vote in new systems for their future safety, security, and happiness, then I would automatically advocate overt guerrilla warfare upon that illegal police department, you see.
But you don't feel we're at that point yet?
I don't feel we're at that point yet, no. I don't. I think that it's very necessary for even the radicals in the streets to see this.
We always keep ammunition in the headquarters because we keep a 12-gauge shotgun because the pigs have tried on numerous occasions to break in our office. And it's the only way we could do it is protect ourselves. We organize around guns and force. And as long as we allow these pigs to kill us off and get away with it, we couldn't be actually here for the people because we wouldn't be here long ourselves. Some of this and those to put us in there.
We've had numerous windows broken out there. We've had numerous stores looted. We've had persons assaulted on the street. We had a postmaster that was brutally beaten there last week. Every Sunday afternoon out in McClatchy Park, there's a group out there that just take over the streets. They double park, they triple park, they stand out in the intersection, they prevent people from going through. The people do try to get through, they block the car and they belt the cars with rocks. So we have had numerous complaints. So last night we did have enough men out there. We're going to clear the intersections and keep the streets open for vehicular traffic. They resented that. We did write several citations for double parking. They didn't like that, and they went back in the park. They started throwing rocks and bottles at cars and our police units. We were going to drive them out of the park. By the time our squads were formed, at that time the shooting started. Once the shooting started from one individual, then it was a series of about 3 to 4 hours. There were many shots fired at the police equipment and the police officers. The Black Panthers have made many statements, and certainly just because the Black Panthers say it, that is not the truth. We have not put any pressure on the Black Panthers, period.
The long-awaited decision in the Huey Newton murder trial, which has drawn worldwide attention, is now very near. The jury of 7 women and 5 men are deliberating the fate of the Black Panther leader on the 8th floor of that building. It is their job to decide whether he is guilty of killing Oakland policeman John Fry and wounding Officer Herbert Haynes in a pre-dawn shootout last October 28th. 2 floors above the jury, in his cell, Huey Newton, who has made almost no show of emotion during the 8 weeks of trial, calmly awaits the decision of the jury. I talked to Newton in the jail.
As far as the proceedings thus far, that the courts have only reflected the racist attitude of the general power structure, that I haven't received a fair trial, that I should not have been indicted in the first place. I was indicted by a blue ribbon grand jury, a middle-class white grand jury that did not represent a cross-section of the community. And
You say you don't feel you've had a fair trial?
No.
Why?
Number one, that the judge has been very racist throughout the proceeding, very pro-prosecution, that I don't feel that I should have been tried at all, and if I had been tried, if there was an inkling of reason to try me, I should not have been tried for first-degree murder. That if the judge had not been a racist, that he would have amended the charges to a manslaughter, perhaps. The very fact that he didn't dismiss the whole charge reflects his racism.
Some of your supporters have said that the trial, that you are a political prisoner.
That are oppressing people of color all over the world, and on a local level, the police, fascist police, are suppressing, repressing the white revolutionaries as well as the blacks who speak of and who are attempting to attain liberation. So I am not standing for violence, but I do stand for self-defense.
Back to the trial for one moment.
Could you just keep on talking?
What about your future if you're on the street next week?
I will continue to organize the black community in a political fashion. I will help in the campaign of Elkridge Cleaver for president, my own campaign for 7th Congressional District, and I think this will be a large job because it's going to be done from a grassroots level, from door to door in the community. It will we will consider the people on 7th Street who stand on the corners, who have lost all faith in this society. And matter of fact, all other, we will attempt to rehabilitate them, to show them that there is possibly some gains in political action, and if it's sincere, and if the black people have exclusive control of it within their community. So in my campaign.
You say, you got enough, Steve?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
you think a young revolution is coming, that will be more and more coming?
Yes, now the white intellectuals are responding to the liberation cry of the colony, and one of the reasons is that the intellectuals are very conscious of the political situation and seemingly very sensitive, and they're attempting to avoid a suicide of the United States. They see very well and very clearly that the United States is about to commit a suicide, because any time that you take the bread and the livelihood away from a people or an individual, you're automatically threatening your own life, because that person then will rise up against you and possibly to do you bodily harm, because he's demanding life and cannot live without bread. The intellectual sees this, and he's attempting to curtail it, and he sees that there has to be some modification or a revolution in the country to replace the old racist institutions.
Bobby Hutton was murdered. Bobby Hutton's body was a house down. They said he'd come out with a gun, and they had floodlights on the place. If he'd had a gun, they'd have shot him on the front steps. Now his body was down, then the fire trucks come along. They washed the blood away, of course, but they literally murdered Bobby Hutton and shot and wounded Elkridge Cleaver and Warren, these other men. This is what the police department has done. After they've set the house on fire, the fire department set the house on fire, put tear gas in the place, etc., shot the place all up. Fellows came out of the place with their hands in the air.
It is my opinion that this is the latest in a series of attempts to liquidate the leadership of the Black Panther Party. At first they moved against Huey P. Newton, Minister of Defense, and they are well advanced in framing Booby Seale, the chairman, and now for the first time they have moved directly against me, shooting me and attempting to kill me. I think this is a calculated plan that has been carried out.
Thank you. We just came from Bobby Hutton's funeral, and I'm not going to stand up here and make a speech, because white people, you've been listening to white people for 400 years. They said they were going to do something. They haven't done a thing as far as I'm concerned in re-enfranchising the black man. It's up to the individual to do something, but first the government, to give the black man a decent place to live, a decent place to bring his children up in. That could have been my son lying there. And I'm going to do as much as I can. I'm going to start right now to inform white people of what they don't know. The Reverend said, the white man can't cool it because he's never dug it. And I'm here to try to dig it. Because I myself as a white man have got a long way to go and a lot to learn. I haven't been in your place. I haven't suffered the way you've suffered. I'm just beginning to learn the nature of that experience. And somehow that has to be translated to the white community now. Time's running out for everybody. That's enough. That's enough talking. A man came along at the bottom of a mountain, searching out a pure stream of water. He was thirsty. He was very, very, very thirsty. Now, when the man found the stream of water, the spring, it was muddy. It was filthy. Then the man explained to the other man, the black man trying to clear the stream, that stream is dirty because at the top of the stream, at the top of the hill, there's a hog in the stream. There's a hog muddying it all up. Black people want their freedom. Martin Luther King in his own way, Malcolm X in his own way, Marcus Garvey in his own way, Du Bois in his way, Nat Turner in his way, Lumumba in his way, Ho Chi Minh in his way, Castro in his way, all are dealing with trying to get the hog out of the stream of freedom for people in this world. The hog has been in the stream for some 400 to 600 years. I'm talking about decadent Western white civilization. That is the hog. That is the hog. And what are the characteristics of the hog? It is an exploiting hog. It has to make money. Some call it capitalism. Some call it imperialism. But damn it, it exploits black people. It raped Africa. It raped Asia. That's the hog. And what is the stream? The stream is humanity. Right. Western civilization is blocking up humanity today. Right. That's why the brothers said Ho Chi Minh and Castro in their own way are fighting to get rid of the hog because he's jamming the stream of humanity.
The question is not will it be nonviolence versus violence, but whether a human being can practice his God-given right of self-defense. Shot down like a common animal, he died a warrior for black liberation. If the generation before him had not been afraid, he perhaps would be alive today. Remember, like Solomon, there is a time for everything, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to love, a time to hate, a time to fight, and a time to retreat. In the name of brotherhood and survival, remember Bobby.
And you're not going for one reason. Because the Black Panther Party refuses to let you get slaughtered. We have definite, reliable information on the whole situation. You are not going. And if I sent you up there, you'd hate me. You hear that? We do not make non-violent protests without the position of making sure we defend ourselves.
Services for Bobby Hutton, who was shot and killed last Saturday night by Oakland police, were held here at the Euphrasian Church of God in Christ this morning.
play. And I shall not die. You make it mean to lie down in the green pasture. You leadeth me beside the still water.
Services for Bobby Hutton, who was shot and killed last Saturday night by Oakland police, were held here at the Euphrasia Church of God in Christ this morning.
back a little bit, please. And I shall not die. You make it mean to lie down in the green pasture. You leadeth me beside the still water.
We know how the mass media functions. That because there are a lot of people in this audience who have been active in various incidents, demonstrations, what have you, that they've had occasion to read about that in the newspapers, and to watch it on television, hear it on the radio, and it seems as though that they're reading about or observing on the TV something that happened someplace else. See? That what's being reported, in fact, had nothing to do with what really went on. So there's no wonder that people who have been deluged with this type of misinformation for all of their lives, and really for all of their history, it's no wonder that they don't know what's going on, and that when some articulate pig comes along and tells them that the only way to solve this problem is to lynch all the niggers, that because he's been a judge, because he's been the governor, because he's been anointed by some crazy preacher or some priest, because he can go to the White House, because he's in the White House, because of all of these things. I mean, there's a limit to how people can, see through all of this. You don't have time to analyze all this, and there's a tendency to throw up both hands and just go along with the situation. Well, information is the raw material for new ideas. If we get misinformation, we're going to get some brand new funny ideas. And that's the basic problem.